Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Two Ps in the podcast with me, your beautiful host, Katie Owen.
And me, Jessica, your other host.
Who's also beautiful, although she'll never say it, but I will. So we hope that you are well, and we thank you for coming back and joining us today. If you are new here, hi. Jess and I are best friends, and we decided that we talk all the time, and so we are designed to run a podcast together. So today, what are we talking about, Jess? Give us the
We are going to talk about our spiritual awakenings and how that went for us, and maybe some of the telltale signs that you're going through your own spiritual awakening right now.
Yeah, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but we'll get into that as we go, right?
Yes, it's definitely not I don't think it's what people expect.
No, and that's a good place to start, isn't it? Because I think there is still this gloss over it of like I say, and the sunshine and rainbows, and it's all going to be beautiful and angelic and gorgeous. And yeah, that's just not the reality. I don't know why they paint it like that. Like it's something we're supposed to aspire to, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think that when people go through their spiritual awakening, they really do assume that everything's going to fall together for them. Like suddenly they're going to get all the answers. They're going to have all the clarity. They're going to know exactly where they're meant to be, what they're meant to be doing. But actually, it's quite the opposite. I find that everything, at least in my own spiritual awakening, everything fell apart. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going or why any of this was happening. It kind of, you develop that over time. And I don't know why humans want to make things easier than they are when everything in life is difficult. It's like we just really want to find one thing that's easy or something.
I think it's the illusion of control, right? I think it really is. And I would argue that we really don't have any control over anything in life, but we like to think that we do. So if we're saying that, oh, it will be fine, and oh, it's this, and then you'll have this, it's almost making it knowable, which of course it's anything but.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Control is something that is a problem that a lot of us face, like trying to have control over people, situations, our own selves. And we don't control a lot, like you said. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So normally I go first, but I know you have notes, and I'm really interested. I don't know if you've ever actually, I know you know my story. I don't know if I know all the details about yours. So I want you to go first this time. So tell us how did it even kick off for you?
Well, I've always known that I was really intuitive, like my whole life. Okay. And as I think I've said on the podcast before, everybody in my family has some kind of spiritual gift.
Yeah.
Like some kind of intuition, mediumship, dreams that they have, something. But the first time that it started to really impact me in a profound way was when I was in college. I was doing I was doing a book report on Vlad the Impaler. Because I like that kind of stuff. So I was like, why not do a thing on that? And I was reading up about what a sociopath is. And I was like, it was somebody that's void of emotion, right? So I was like, wow, if there is an opposite to a sociopath, then that is me. Because I have all the emotions, too many emotions, right? And so I just did a quick little search online of what's the opposite of a sociopath. And that's when the magical word empath came across the screen. And that is what opened my whole world up, was just that one search online, because I started reading about what an empath is, and it connected to me in such a deep way where I had never felt that, understood that, seen. Like I suddenly got it. And an empath, for those who don't know, is somebody that is really susceptible to other people's emotions and frequencies and the world and the animals. I mean, there's different types of empaths. But basically, you can sense how a person is feeling. You can sense what they're thinking. You kind of pick up their emotions. You go through what they're going through. And so that really sparked something in my energy where suddenly this empath ability that I had went out of control, and I couldn't actually control it anymore. I was feeling really scared. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling everything. I was sensing everything. I was having strange dreams, strange visions, sensations, and I didn't know what was going on. I had met somebody in college where she was actually an empath, and she knew what that was. And she I feel like spirit puts people in your place in your path at a certain time for a certain reason. Because had it not been for her at that particular moment, I might have driven myself a little crazy.
Yeah.
And so she kind of coached me through that of what this was. So that was my first part of my awakening. But I found that my awakening has been in sections and it's developed over time. There's not really like one significant moment. But after the whole empath thing, my abilities started to develop more. I started to have more intense visions, more intense dreams. I started to feel connected to something that wasn't there. And I always, you know, when I was growing up, I used to say God. I was very religious when I was growing up, very devout into my religion. But I never actually truly felt connected with that. I felt like it was something that was being like shoved down my throat or force fed to me in a sense of this is what you're supposed to believe. Read this book. This will tell you everything you need to know. But when I started to develop my own connection to God, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, that's when I started to really feel more connected and more in touch. And that was when my spiritual awakening really, truly started to happen. And that's when the voice of spirit appeared for me.
Yeah.
I talk to spirit just like I'm talking to you guys right now. You know, spirit is a part of my everyday life and everything that I do. I have a very strong connection to it. And that has been part of my development in my spirituality, and it's really guided me. Another big part of my spiritual awakening was the moment that we all face, which I'm sure Katie is going to talk about in her own. It's where we must choose ourselves. We must choose ourselves. Okay. And this happened when I was at the end of my last most significant relationship, which was with my son's father. I was already into spirituality and already into reading tarot, and me and Katie had long met by that point and developed our own connection and everything. But I was still living behind this mask of I keep this to myself. I keep this inside. You know, I don't really show people who I am. And I had to choose myself. I realized I was living a life that wasn't authentic to who I was, to where I wanted to be, to where I saw myself, to what spirit was saying to me. And in that moment of choosing myself, there were changes that needed to happen. Spirit had long been talking to me about quitting smoking cigarettes, quitting smoking weed, which weed came later in life, but I did start with quitting cigarettes. I suddenly developed this like agoraphobia is almost what I want to describe it as, because I was scared of everything. I didn't even really want to leave the house. I was terrified. I was terrified of everything. I'm pretty sure Katie remembers this. I became like a shut-in almost. But then I finally decided to end that relationship because it wasn't connecting to who I was, where I wanted to be. And I felt like I needed to go off on my own journey. And that is where I really started to get to know myself. I went into isolation, which I feel like is a big part of the spiritual awakening. And I had no choice but to face myself, to face everything that I had been through, all the choices that I had made, how I had gotten myself to where I was at, where I wanted to go, what needed to change, what I could do better. And I'm definitely far from perfect. I don't feel like we're ever done learning or growing.
Oh, God, no.
But if I was to be sitting in front of the girl that was then versus now, we might look very similar, but we have absolutely nothing in common anymore. I am not the same person at all. My spiritual awakening has shifted me into a completely different being, a completely different person. And I'm still learning, I'm still growing. But really what I could sum up my spiritual awakening with was awareness that there's something bigger than myself that's guiding me, awareness that there's a purpose higher than what I could have ever dreamed for myself, and trust. If I can trust in that, trust that what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, the messages that I'm getting, the voice of spirit, that it's real, then I can continue to develop, which is what I'm doing, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in a nutshell.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and it's very, you've said it very succinctly, because that's exactly what it was. I remember I was just recalling then, I think, I'm not taking all the glory off you, but I think I'm a little bit to blame for the Moody Tarot. And I put my hands up to that, because I remember on my Facebook memories, there was a couple of months ago, was when you were like, I've set up my bank account and I was like, you got PayPal, and there's like, I was really encouraging you to go for it, because even from the moment we first met, as we talked about on the first episode, I've always seen your light. I've always known how capable you are and how connected you are. but as we know, confidence is a verb, not a noun. And really, I see you growing confidence in your abilities, which I know is still ongoing. You know, it's and to see how far you've come already. It's just, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And, you know, Katie's not lying when she says that she has been a huge encouraging force in my life. Like, honestly. Like I said, spirit puts people onto your path for a reason.
Yeah.
Everybody has somebody that they see as a guiding light in their life. It wasn't enough for Katie to tell me that, oh, you're talented, you're this, you're that. Because that's honestly one of the first things that Katie said to me when we first met was, I see something special in you. You're special. I was like, okie dokie. You know, like,
who's this random
off the internet
woman talking to me?
Like, it's starting to sound like you're going to be giving me a sales pitch at any moment here. But no, the sales pitch was believe in yourself, you know? And yeah, the Moody Tarot was something that has been a huge part of my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
We just hit 28,000 over there. I know, it's crazy. And within a week, we've gained 100 more subscribers. It's crazy. The Moody Tarot has been something that I've been on a journey with that. It's been a journey in self-confidence. It's been a journey in development. It's been a journey in listening to your intuition, paying attention to red flags. It's been a whole journey for me. And when I started it out, I didn't start out reading for just Geminis. It was the collective.
Yes, I remember.
What made me switch over to reading for Geminis was I started looking at other people's tarot readings and started, you know, watching Gemini readings. And it was like, there was a lot of like hate for Gemini energy. Like a lot of readers were like, well, you know, Gemini, you know, you're two-faced. You know, you're manipulative. You know, you're flighty. You know, people can't trust you, right? And it's like, this is how you talk to your collective. I felt like Geminis needed a hero.
Yes.
They needed a champion. They need somebody that understands Gemini energy, right? So that's what I decided to step into. And I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm getting there.
You are, and you've come so far. You can, but that's the thing. I've seen the growth in you. I've seen how far you've come already, and honestly, yeah, somebody who has Gemini twins. There's irony for you. Yeah, I to see you championing that sign because yeah, they do get a lot of like, oh, like you say, oh, you know, Jekyll and Hyde, Two-Face, and it's like you need somebody to stand up and go, no, we're awesome, actually. Thank you very much.
Yes. So that's kind of, you know, where this journey has taken me. And Spirit, you know, I was really afraid when I first decided to do the transition from the collective to Gemini energy. But Spirit was like, this is what you are meant to do. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So that's part of a spiritual awakening, y'all, is just trusting.
That's the ascension thing of it, isn't it? Like you say, people think that spiritual awakening is like a one-time dealio. It's like you are asleep and then you awake and then that's it then for the rest of your life. And it's not that at all. That's the ascension process of like, I think that there are multiple awakenings and there are layers of awakening. And I've definitely seen that with you. I know that you get ascension sickness a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I go through ascensions all the time. It's ridiculous. And I know how to pinpoint it now when I'm actually going through an ascension because my gifts will be out of whack. It's like the channel. And I don't know how to describe it unless you're actually a channeler. You'll understand what I'm saying, where the channel will be wide open and information will be coming through. And then it's harder to grab on to that information. Yeah. That is when I know that I'm going through some kind of recalibration. I'm going through some kind of ascension. Because if it was up to me, I would just film every single day, all day, nonstop, continue to work. Sometimes Spirit just has to stop me.
Yeah. Spirit will put you on your ass many times.
Yes. And I don't like to get to that point because that's when you get an illness or you get an injury or fatigue or whatever. But, you know, that's what I'm here to do. It's hard to not do what you're here to do, right? Yeah. When you find out what you're meant to do, it's like you want to do it.
Of course. Absolutely. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know that the empathy, I didn't know for a long time that I'm an empath too, because empaths tend to attract other empaths, right? And I've always been told that I'm too sensitive growing up, too sensitive. I have no backbone. I need to toughen up. What's wrong with me? And it was only, I didn't discover the term empathy, I think, until I was like 34, 35. And suddenly it was like, oh, that's who I am, right? But like, yeah, I lived most of my life up to this point of just thinking there was something wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's something that a lot of empaths are actually told, because I know that I was told that you care too much. You're too
Yeah.
sensitive, which is why my tarot channel is called the Moody Tarot. That's not by accident. That is by design, because I have been told my whole life you're too moody, too emotional. Can we really be too emotional? That's the question. I don't think we can.
I think we're never too much. I think anyone who tells you that you're too much probably isn't being their full authentic self, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that sass.
Absolutely. You know,
Give them the sass, okay?
sass for days.
Yes. Okay, so what about your spiritual awakening? I'm curious about this.
Yeah, because I define mine as a tower moment. Now, you don't have to go through a tower moment to have an awakening. A lot of people do. A tower moment, for those who don't know, connects to the tarot, where the tower card, as we know, is where there's the image of the tower coming down and people are out the window screaming, you know, ah! And there's someone like trying to stop it happening. And basically what I say to people when I do readings is that the tower is built on sand. It was always going to come down at some point. You just were resisting it, and so spirit made it come down. And you can't rebuild what you had before because it's not stable. You have to build something else, right?
Yes.
So, like you, I knew that I didn't think that I was intuitive because, again, didn't really have any massive knowledge of that. But I was always kind of interested in the paranormal, I would say. And I was interested in the witchy vibe and stuff like that. I was bullied at school, so I tried to fit in and be normal, quote unquote. So I kind of shut it off, but things kept happening to me. I had lots of weird experiences, which I know we will talk to about on a later podcast. But in my 20s, especially, my life, I've spoken about this in other podcasts. I was like in a boat without a sail, without an oar, without a compass. I was just letting life just take me where I wanted to go. But I was really deeply unhappy in my 20s. And I didn't know, I couldn't figure out the thing. I knew that I was here for a reason. I felt that deep in my soul, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And everything I kept trying to fill the hole, if you like, inside of me wasn't working. So I tried partying, I tried men, I tried shopping, I tried studying. Like there had to be something, and nothing was really working. And then in 2010, very, very sadly, and I know that you know the story, Jess, is that my grandparents both died on the same day because my granddad's mobility scooter was set on fire outside their flat, if you're American apartment. Although they didn't die in the fire because they were rescued by the firemen out the back window, they both died in hospital the next day. And to say that it was shocking would be the understatement of the millennia. Like, to lose people like that, words just fail me. And I'm a writer and I can't put it into words. Like, the shock and the trauma of that, because not only did we lose them unexpectedly and in the worst possible way, but then it's a police investigation. And we also had the media at the end of the driveway. So we had the newspapers trying to get stories and take photographs. They even came to the funeral. Like, it was awful. It was beyond awful. And I'm trying to be strong for the family. I'm like talking to the police officers and dealing with the, trying the arrangements. Like, it was awful. But anyway, what that did for me was it put me on my ass. Because obviously life away from that kind of stopped because everything became about that. And it made me very reflective, actually. And I realized how unhappy I was. And I knew that something had to change, but I didn't know what the thing was. Anyway, a couple of months later, I met a friend of my mum's, lovely Barbara, who's no longer with us, nicest lady in the world. And the first words out of her mouth to me were not hi or nice to meet you. She went, you can do what I can do, you know. Excuse me? She was a psychic medium. And she, like you're saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, the mentor appears. She then worked with me to mentor me, to help me to read tarot. So she brought out my gifts and was there when I had what's known as the dark night of the soul, which is where you are literally feel like you're going mad and you don't know what's happening to you. But like you say, you're hearing things, you're seeing things, you're feeling things, and you can't talk to anybody about it because everyone thinks that like you're exaggerating or you've lost the plot. Like I was an open channel with no form of protection, no form of boundaries, just open to it all. And it was a lot, but she was there and she really supported me and helped me to figure it out and also to start to accept the person that I am. So yeah, it was happened in the worst possible way. And I'm not, there's a time when I would have said, it happened for me, and although it was awful, I'm grateful for it because of what it gave me. I don't do that anymore because it's actually quite toxic positivity and it's quite bypassing. But what I will say is I can see the silver lining in the very dark cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that dark night of the soul is something that I feel like isolation is part of it. I feel like you have to go through a sense of isolation. Yeah. Because there's not other people that are really going to understand what you're going through. And it's like, that what I had said before, where you're really questioning yourself, you're questioning everything that you're experiencing, what you're feeling, what you thought was true, what you thought to be true for your life and for who you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah, it is. And it's making sure, I think it's important to have at least one person as a touch point.
Yeah.
Because like I say, and like you touched upon, without it, and you don't understand what's happening to you, I do wonder whether people who have had mental health issues in that regard, it's because they've been awakening and don't understand what's happening to them. And do feel like they've gone into an insanity place. Because it's a lot. It's quite scary when it's happening, especially if you don't really know what's happening to you. Because like you say, you're hearing voices, you're seeing visions, you're feeling people's emotions. You think like something's going wrong up here.
Yeah. And I think that that's actually a huge misconception. I think that a lot of people are deemed crazy or mentally ill, or they're given these diagnoses, when really there is a spiritual source of it. But we don't, as a human race, we don't really focus on the spiritual. We focus on science and facts, and which is wildly ironic considering certain things. But yeah, I think that a lot of people kind of get misdiagnosed, or even they get drugged or medicated, like put them on antidepressants, put them on anxiety medication, put them on whatever to stop the visions, to stop whatever they're hallucinating, but if these people had somebody that was there to maybe coach them and show them that this could be something else, this could be something different, and let's tap in and see what that could be. Yeah, I feel like there would be less people out there that would be classified as mentally ill.
Yeah, I agree. But, sadly, neither of us are medical professionals, so.
Nope. I'm hardly a professional, period.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and it makes me feel really sad because it's like, there's people out there that they see things, they hear things, they don't understand it. And because they don't have anybody to talk to, they don't have anybody that will understand what they're going through. They really, I feel like, almost stop the growth right there. They stop the ascension. They don't explore it any deeper because they're scared of it and they don't understand. And again, that is where I feel like spirit will put people onto your path in some cases. But there are people out there that have to go through it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing that people sometimes don't realize, is that we ultimately, as human beings, have free will. Yeah. One of the great laws of the universe is that we are in charge of our lives, even if it doesn't feel like that sometimes. And so things can happen to you, but you have to be a willing participant in that. And I do agree. I think there are some people, because I've been a spiritual mentor, as you know, in the past. And it's a real block. It can really shut people off, or they can kind of bring in circumstances that make them really afraid. I mean, we talk about empathy, and I know I've talked about this before in the relationship episode, because I was the people pleaser and horror films and scary things, I was like, because I was frightened of it, I then, through the law of attraction, then started having experiences that made me more afraid, which then confirmed my fear.
Yeah.
You
Isn't
know,
that crazy how that works?
it's crazy.
Like what you're energetically putting all this energy into is actually getting drawn into like a magnet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't
So
think
I
people realize that.
until I started working with the angels, I was like, I couldn't fully lean into it because I was afraid of it. So it was almost like this weird cha-cha where I was like back and forth, because I was like, I kept being pulled, but my fear kept pulling me back from it.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because if you remember, I didn't even believe in angels at one point.
Yeah.
Like I was very resistant to it. Like the whole angel demon, they're fighting over our soul thing. I was like, that sounds like a huge fairy tale. Until you actually experience spiritual warfare. When you actually really experience true spiritual warfare where there is something fighting for your soul, it's like that's when you know. But my first experience with angels was when I was going through what you have classified as the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Because even though me and Katie have had each other for the last over a decade, there's still a lot of things we go through individually and that we process on our own, and then we'll round back and be like, hey, I went through this. But I had, really just was at the end of my ropes. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what if I was doing the right thing. I had left my relationship. I was starting to regret that because it was a comfort zone and I was missing my comfort zone. I was in this energy of being uncomfortable. As crazy as it sounds, and I'm not trying to offend anybody that could be or couldn't be watching, it wasn't that I was missing him. I was missing the comfort of that stability that I had felt. And I knew that. I knew that if I was to go back to him, I wasn't going to be happy because I wasn't happy there,
Yeah.
But I was feeling lost. I had started reading tarot online. It was going really slow. Being online, you get all these nasty, negative, nasty comments, and some of them are really reaffirming what it's like the darkness knows. The darkness knows just who to send to you. They'll say things that it's like, wow, I already thought I was a piece of shit. Thanks for clarifying that for me. You know what I mean? Like I was literally already thinking I am a piece of garbage. And then you coming in here and telling me I'm a piece of garbage. Well, yeah, you're right. So I was having a lot of stuff that was going on. I was feeling just lost and unsure. I remember I was finding my own way in the tarot world because there's ways that people read on YouTube, and then there's ways that I read. And I was finding that I was being called to do things a different way, but am I doing things the right way? Is this the wrong way? I don't know. And I was just so lost. And I remember sitting in the shower and it was pitch black because I like to take dark showers for some reason. So I was in the shower, it was pitch black, and I was on the floor of the shower and I was crying and I was upset. And you were really big into angels, and I, again, didn't really believe in them. But I was like, you know what? If there are angels, Archangel Michael, I'd like you to show up. I'd like you to come in here, and I'd like you to protect my energy, because I felt like I was under spiritual attack. I was really just lost. And in the darkness, the whole room just flashed bright white light, just out of nowhere, just bright, like almost like a camera flash had gone on, is what it felt like. And I get goosebumps just even thinking about it. I get goosebumps to this very day. I just felt this all of a sudden, like protectiveness, like this calm, serene, just like, I'm here, I got you. Almost like a fatherly energy or like a brotherly type of vibe. Like somebody's here that's got me, that will protect me. And from that moment on, that was all it took for me to believe in angels, because I had something that had caused me to, I couldn't deny what had happened. And I remember telling you, and you were really not as surprised as I was expecting you to be. I was expecting you to be like, holy moly.
Just like, about time. Yeah, hello.
Yeah. You to be like, oh my gosh, gee golly Wally, right? That's so amazing. But you were just like, yeah, that's how it works.
Gee golly Wally. When have I ever said gee golly Wally? British, but we don't say that.
I would say that's definitely me. But no, you were just like, yeah, that's how it works. I told you. What do you think I've been talking about this whole time? And I was just convinced from that moment on that there were angels that were there to protect us, but you have to ask for their protection. You have to ask for their support.
Exactly, because again, free will. The only caveat when they intervene and we haven't asked is if our life is in danger and it's not our time to pass. Right? So that's when miracles happen of people's lives being saved with no explanation and the person that saved them disappears. It's that kind of thing, right? But I mean, in terms of Archangel Michael, who I call my homeboy forever and ever, he has essentially saved my life at least twice, if not three times. And this was before, well, one of them was definitely before my awakening. So, for those that don't know, I am a mum of three for my sons, and my eldest is 22. So, I had him before my 21st birthday. And, it's one of those pregnancies that wasn't planned, but it is what it is, you're getting on with it. And my granddad had stomach cancer. So he was in the hospital and we've been to see him and I'm pregnant or whatever. And my nan was there with her sister and she said, "Are you all right, Kate?" She said, "Your feet are really big." And I went, "Yeah, I'm fine. I feel fine. Why?" And she was like, "Well, that's not normal." And I thought, "Well, just water retention. It's fine." She went, "I would go and get that checked if I were you." So I was like, "Okay, Janan." Like, yeah, okay, fine. So anyway, I spoke to my midwife and she said, "I'll come and see you on the Monday." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." She didn't come and see me. I don't know, obviously wasn't meant to be, whatever. Anyway, on the Friday, and I still get goosebumps when I think about this because it's like, it was just weird in the most wonderful way. So I'm sat at home on my own. My partner, my son's father was at work. So it was just me. And I'm reading. I was going to read the magazine. And I did not have the TV on. I did not have a radio on. It was silent in the house. And out of nowhere, in my left ear, I heard, "Go to the doctor now," in a male voice. And I hit myself. Like my first thought, which is kind of random, because why would somebody do this? I don't know. But my first thought was that somebody had broken in. Now, why would somebody break in and tell me to go to the doctor? I do not know. But that was my first thought.
That's like citizen of the year right there.
So, but I'm like looking around the house, like I'm all scared and stuff. I mean, even like we had a dog with us, but I was still like, "Oh my God." And like I'm looking next door, the neighbors are not in. Like, it's just me. And I'm like, this is weird. As I opened the front door, there was a white feather on the doorstep. And I wasn't spiritually awakened then. But there was something in me that was like, maybe I should get a doctor. Thank God. Because I went, and the doctor at the time, she took one look at me and she went, "Go to the hospital now." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go when my partner comes home." And she went, "No, go now." And I was like, "Okay." So luckily my friend's mum drove us over and they, checked me over and what was going on. My blood pressure was through the roof. And like dangerously so. I had preeclampsia, which is the only way to bring it down is if the mother delivers the baby immediately, because if they don't, mother and baby will essentially die. And I told the doctor what had happened to me, and because I don't know why, I just felt like I could. He was that type, and he went, "Someone's watching over you, aren't they?" But that's when I had an emergency C-section that night, and Jack was born at 9:09.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
those
yes,
moments like that are so powerful.
I was 33 weeks pregnant. So yeah, Jack was £3.12 when he was born, and he was in special care for 4 weeks. But yeah, it's such a story, because I'm thinking, like, without that voice, who knows what could have happened?
Yeah. And I think that you have a guardian angel. There's this energy here of like, you weren't done. You're not done yet. You have so much more that you're meant to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just crazy. And that's the thing. I think people have a bit of a block when it comes to angels and gods and stuff, obviously, because of the religious upbringing. And like you say, the people, if they've not had a healthy relationship in that space, or they, people have different experiences, then they kind of shut those words down.
Yeah.
But like I said to you, I don't care what you call it. You can call it God, the universe, source, spirit, whatever. I don't care. You can call it Bob if you want. All I care about is that you're connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like that has been one of the biggest things about with me calling spirit spirit instead of God, is like a lot of people are wondering, am I talking to the same thing as them? Am I connecting with the same thing? It's all energy. It's
Yeah,
all the same thing. It's a higher power. It's the creator,
yeah,
you know? And if you're getting caught up on what you're calling it, you're paying attention to the wrong things.
yeah,
You need to pay attention to how it's making you feel.
yeah,
You need to pay attention to the guidance that's coming through. I feel like fear of the unknown, and then of course superstition, has caused people to believe that God is some old man that sits up on a mountain somewhere and you are allowed to speak to it, but it will never speak back to you. And, you are to live your life separate somehow, but yet it is the one that's controlling everything. I don't understand that. I do not understand all the contradictions with that kind of belief system. You know, for me, like I had said earlier, spirit is an everyday part of my life
yeah,
in every way. If I'm heartbroken, if I'm frustrated, if I'm happy, if I'm scared, it's spirit that's the first one that's always there.
yeah.
Always there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even I would say like there are three key relationships in your life. There's me, your children, and spirit.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, spirited, and that's the thing, is like it's not just something that I believe in, it's a part of me. It's my partner in life. Spirit is my partner. And how you develop that connection is trust.
Mm.
You have to believe that it's actually there.
Yeah.
First thing to do with trying to connect to the other side, trying to connect to spirituality and believing in all of this, is throw the idea of coincidence out the door. Forget about it. Let it go. There is no such thing as coincidence. Because once you release that idea that none of this means anything and it's just some weird circumstance, coincidence, that is when you are forced to kind of meet yourself in a place that you've never met yourself before, which is faith, which is belief in the unknown.
Yeah.
And trusting your intuition, which everybody has.
Absolutely.
So that's number one. Coincidence doesn't exist. There's no such thing as that. If you were thinking about something like profound and then you saw 11:11 on the clock.
Well, you and I are massive fans of signs, aren't we? That was actually one of the things that we started talking about 11 years ago, was we connected because we both love signs. Yeah. And it's like this hidden secret language, right? That like the spirit's always talking to you, but you just have to pay attention.
Yeah, signs to me are a huge part of my life because that's how the divine talks to you most times. Yeah. I think that even if as close as I am to spirit, if spirit was to magically appear in my face right now as a person and start talking to me, I might be like, whoa, because I'm really used to just the signs. I get signs through songs. Music is a huge part of my life. I get signs through angel numbers, of course. I'm always seeing the numbers. And then, of course, feathers, which we all know is my favorite thing in the whole wide world.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Like I've had literal words come. So like I know when I was going through the breakdown of my marriage and it was such a hard time and I got in the car and I was all emotional and scared. And I said, am I going to be all right? Just give me a sign that I'm going to be okay. And as I started driving, a van pulled in front of me and on the back in block black letters was the word yes.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful. I love that kind of stuff. That's giving me goosebumps. I love those kind of signs. I love that kind of like the instant gratification, the instant message, the instant answer. Signs, like, they come in all kinds of different ways. You just have to be open to seeing it. And again, if you were to believe in coincidence, you would be like, well, that was just a coincidence.
Yeah, of course.
That didn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
But no, it does mean something.
Yeah, that's what faith is. Like you say, it's the belief in something bigger than yourself. That's literally the definition of faith.
Yeah, believing that you're here for a reason. There's a reason to all of this.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing. There is, and I've spoken about this in my coaching, the brain, there's the Eastern philosophy that says the brain is divided into four. So there is the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So imagine if like 4 rooms in your house, you know, and most people spend most of their time in 2 rooms, right? But there is one room where like the curtains are shut and there's dusty and there's cobwebs and they don't really go in there. And for most people in the Western world, it's their spirituality. But for the Eastern philosophy, to have full sense of alignment and wholeness and well-being, you have to spend equal time in all 4 rooms.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not about what you believe in, but it's finding something more than yourself to believe in. For some people, that's humanity and Mother Earth and Mother Nature. That's fine. We're not asking people to all subscribe to our belief system that Jess and I have. But finding something that's more than you, I think really benefits you.
Yeah, I think it does too. Direction and purpose is a big part of life. It's important. It's important to feel like all of this means something.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going through suffering, which as the Buddhists say, life is suffering, and I believe that. That's one of my, I mean, you know, not just because I went through a lot of suffering, but I, in a weird, sick, twisted way, find comfort in that. I find comfort in the fact that life is suffering. I know that that's weird and people don't understand, but it's like, you know, you're here to develop, you're here to experience, you're here to learn, you're here to grow. And if life is suffering, that means that you are learning something, you're growing, and you're showing yourself how strong you are. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know? So having direction, having purpose, because I'm, as we know, a really productive person. I don't like to just go, okay, well, I have intuition, great. Well, what am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah.
Like, what is this all about? And so that's when I started having those conversations with Spirit about that. And it was, well, now you help other people. What have you been going through all of this for? Not to just experience it, but to help other people who are going through and experiencing it as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's all about transmutation. That's what real alchemy is. Alchemy is transforming pain into positivity. And for me, it's by transforming it into something positive and helping other people who are going through a similar experience. You're helping them, but you're also helping yourself.
Yeah. And there's a difference between, I feel like those, because not everybody is a light worker. That's just period. Not everybody is. Everybody goes through suffering. Everybody goes through growth and lessons in life, but not everybody chooses to take that energy and do something with it. There are a lot of people out here in this world that go, well, I had to go through that on my own, so why should I help anybody else? But that's not the calling of a light worker. That's not the heart of a healer. A healer says, I don't want people to go through things alone precisely because I had to.
Exactly. And that's where, I mean, I know that you speak about that on your channel, but a lot of light workers will attract broken birds because they know what it feels like to be broken.
Yeah. And, you know, that's just part of it. We could get into a whole discussion about broken birds.
I know.
Let's not, okay? But let's just say that yes. I mean, and the thing is like you said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I fully believe that. I have had so many people reach out to me through email, phone, in private personal readings, in the comment section, and I hear this similar thing every single time. You just appeared one day on my newsfeed. I don't know where you came from. I don't know. I wasn't even looking at tarot, or I wasn't even watching this, or I wasn't even into this kind of stuff. And then there was your video, and I thought, okay. And I clicked on it, and it's like you were speaking right to me. And I'm like, that is the power of spirit. That has so, I am just like the radio, right? So while I do play an essential role because the radio has to be open to playing the song that's coming through, it's spirit that's working through to bring these messages. So it's honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing sometimes, like when you really step back to think about it.
Absolutely.
You know,
and that's where it also, I think, is massively helpful to have a friend or family member or partner who gets it, right? Because if you're out here, I can't imagine, I mean, to be fair, I can, because I had that at one point, but to try and walk this path completely on your own and nobody understands it and nobody's on a similar path, it's very lonely. and you do feel very isolated. It's so lovely to have somebody who just like I'm that person where people go, I know this sounds really weird, but and I go, at this point, nothing sounds weird to me. You can tell me anything, you can ask me anything, you know? So to have somebody that understands and doesn't think you're weird is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, it really is, because this path, and even having somebody like that, it can still feel isolating. It can still feel alone when it's like it's that one person, but there's really nobody else that gets it.
Yeah.
You know? So, but that's not the case. And it's like me and Katie have talked about several times, because one of the most frequent things that me and Katie have said to each other is, I wish you were closer.
Yeah.
I wish you were closer. I wish we were at least on the same continent, for crying out loud.
There's a whole ass freaking ocean between us.
You know what I mean? Like, and you know how I am about that. So, yeah. But I do truly believe that light workers are put at different spots of the world. We're put in different stations. If we were all consolidated together, yeah, it'd be a really bright area. It might be like one would say a utopia, but we wouldn't be doing as much work as we could possibly get done. And that's the point.
Of course, and also the fact if you and I were nearer, we wouldn't get anything done at all, all day just chatting.
I really don't think we would get as much done as we could. But that's, again, isolation, I feel like, is a huge part of it. That's why, for me in tarot, the Hermit card represents spirit for me. It's that isolation. It's being alone. It's reaching inside and finding that inner light, that inner knowledge, which to me is what spirit represents. It's not something external to yourself. It's something that's within you.
And yeah, I find it hilarious that when people pull the Hermit card out, everyone's kind of like, oh, because it's not like it's not perceived as being like a shiny, sparkly, wonderful card like the Star or the Sun or the Ten of Cups. Everyone kind of goes, but I'm like, it's so powerful if you understand what it means.
Yeah, a lot of readers say that the Hierophant represents like the higher power for them.
I disagree, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
In my opinion, I disagree, but that's just
because I went through the whole thing where I went through to church, which is what I think the Hierophant really represents, right? An institution.
Yeah.
And I went through that in my life, and that's not where I found spirit.
Mm.
That's not where I felt most connected to the divine. I felt most connected to the divine in my isolation. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, that's why I've just dubbed the Hermit the card of spirit. So I get excited when I see the Hermit card, because it's like, this is spirit. So spirit's involved somehow, you know? We'll have to do a discussion sometime on tarot specifically.
Oh, for sure. I was just thinking when you said that, just the memories. I actually went to a Church of England school, and we used to do like hymns and prayers and stuff. And I used to go to Sunday school when I was younger. So like, I wasn't fully like church going, but yeah. And actually one of my qualifications from school is in religious studies, where we learned about like Sikhism and Hinduism. And so like, there's always been like it's always been like a dabbling on the fringe, but it wasn't until I became like 30, 31, where it was really like, okay, now you're ready, off you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, church was like something that my family wasn't even really into church. Like we were like, I would say like fair weather Christians.
Yeah.
So like when you really need help, you'll pray. When you're going down, when you're down and out, that's when you'll connect to spirit or connect to God or whatever. And then of course, Easter, Christmas, you go to church on these days, right? Mm-hmm. I used to get actually like teased a lot and kind of ridiculed from my family because of how devout I was. I was always in church. I went Sunday, Mondays, and Wednesdays to church. Okay. I was really into it, like really, really into it. I always wanted to find something to connect to, because I always felt deep down inside that there was something. I had to develop that connection, you know? It wasn't something that I was just like, oh, okay, I'm connected to spirit. Like I really had to develop it.
Yeah. Yeah. For the longest time, I wouldn't have even called myself atheist. I was called myself agnostic because I'm a Libra. So I sat firmly on the fence, right? I'll see both sides of the argument.
Yeah. Yeah, but at some point, it's less about what your logical brain is saying and what your heart is feeling, what your soul is feeling. Because spirituality to me is much like love. It's not a thinking thing. It's not a logicalizing thing. It's not something to put into a box. Love and spirituality is something that you feel.
Absolutely. And it is, because it's a relationship. And so, yeah, it's a bit scary at first, but then you get those first giddy days of like when you're falling in love. And I remember walking back and like, I know it sounds really cheesy and cliche, but like, have the flowers always been that color? Has the sunshine always been that bright?
You know exactly what you're talking about, because yes, like I get super excited about that. Like when I see birds or like a feather, or I see like angel numbers or something. I see a certain number. I see my birthday. I see my mom's birthday. I just get like so super excited, and just this energy of like love. And then like if I'm going through like a heartache or something, or like a sadness, I've lost something, it's almost like I can feel, I know it sounds so weird, but it's like I can almost feel spirit's arms around me, like giving me a hug and encouraging me, you know, and saying like it's going to be okay, you know, you will survive this, you'll be okay. So I don't know, you know, everybody's relationship, everybody's connection with the divine is different. And maybe how the viewer, whoever's watching, maybe how we are talking about spirit is not how you connect with spirit, and that's fine. Everybody's different. You have to develop your own way.
Absolutely, because I know one of my quotes is that I say, you know, religion is walking in somebody else's shoes. Spirituality is walking your own path. And that's the thing. Spirituality means that you're able to find the connection that works for you. You're able to find your own way. So you absolutely, if you've got inspiration from this conversation, awesome. But again, if you disagree with everything we've said, that's fine. We don't need to have an argument about it. It's just, this is our path and our truth, and you're very welcome to have your path and your truth. That's how it works. So just interesting, you know?
Yeah, and I find that people who get really offended by somebody else believing something different than them, it's because you're not really truly grounded in your own belief. It's like when you get triggered because somebody says something negative about you, there's a part of your brain that maybe believes that a little bit, and that's why you're so triggered.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am perfectly okay with other people believing what they want to believe. My belief system is something that I've spent years and years and years of my life developing. And so I'm very sure of it.
Yes.
Very sure of what I believe.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's been a fascinating conversation, Jazz, and I knew it would be. And I'm sure that you know, people watching this will have taken something from it, because we've kind of gone into many different places and spaces. So please let us know in the comments your thoughts and your experiences. We love reading them, and we're really interested in how people are kind of thinking about things. Let us know. You know, we like reading them, don't we? So.
Yeah, yes. Katie always sends me snapshots because she is the admin here, people. Like if you leave a message, she's the one that's going to see it. I don't come and check the messages. She'll send something to me if it's significant. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about this. Let us know if your own spiritual awakening experiences that you've had, how you connect, what you believe, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are we talking about next time?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited about this, guys. Gee golly Wally. Okay.
Why is that not the tagline of this podcast? Like, we just found it right there.
I am the person that will bust out a good old gee golly Wally. That is definitely my energy over Katie's. Okay, so what we're gonna talk about next time is our paranormal experiences. This is oh my gosh, y'all! I'm getting goosebumps already because I have had some experiences, y'all. Okay.
Me too.
So get ready for that one. Some of them are nice, some of them are creepy.
Right.
So that should be fun.
And again, you know, if you want to come in the comments on this episode and let us know of your paranormal, spooky experiences, and we can share them next time. So let us know, because we love it when you guys get involved.
Yes. And that's what am I supposed to say as an influencer? Like, comment, subscribe, share. That's not my bag. I don't really say that. So you're going to be here if you want to be here. That's my philosophy in life. But do all those things, y'all.
Well done. Because normally I'm the one that kind of goes like, so yeah, well done. See,
yes.
I'm proud of you. Oh, guys, thank you for watching this, and we hope that you've enjoyed it. Like I say, we hope that you found it interesting at the very least. And yeah, just thank you for being here with us. We really, really appreciate you. But look, have a great week. Sending you lots of love. Big love to you, Jess, as always. And we will definitely see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.